Have you ever wondered what series of events led to the most devastating global conflict in history, World War II? Let's take a trip back to the aftermath of World War I. The year is 1919 and the Treaty of Versailles has just been signed. This peace agreement is supposed to bring stability, but instead, it stirs up resentment, particularly in Germany. The terms of this treaty were harsh. One of the most notorious stipulations was the War Guilt Clause, which placed sole blame for the war on Germany. Now imagine you're Germany, you're already battered and bruised from the war and now you're being asked to pay heavy reparations. This left the country economically crippled and politically unstable. The German people were disgruntled, disillusioned, and desperate for change, and who should step into this volatile mix but Adolf Hitler and the Nazi Party? The Treaty of Versailles sowed the seeds of discontent in Germany, setting the stage for the rise of Adolf Hitler and the Nazi Party. How did a failed artist become the instigator of the deadliest conflict in human history? Let's delve into the heart of Germany post-World War I. A nation battered and bruised, its economy in tatters, and its pride wounded. These were the conditions that saw the rise of Adolf Hitler and the Nazi Party. Hitler, with his charismatic speeches, tapped into the resentment and frustration of the German people, promising them prosperity and power. Meanwhile in Italy, a similar narrative unfolded. Benito Mussolini, a former journalist, capitalized on the unrest that followed World War I, and brought his vision of a strong, dominant Italy to the forefront. These were not isolated incidents, they were symptomatic of a larger trend sweeping across Europe: the rise of fascism. This political ideology, with its emphasis on dictatorial power, forcible suppression of opposition, and strong regimentation of society and the economy, was gaining ground. The rise of fascism in Europe marked a turning point, setting the world on a path to war. What happens when the world stands by and watches as nations are consumed by powerful aggressors? In the 1930s, the world witnessed the expansionist policies of Germany, Italy, and Japan, each hungry for power and territory. Japan, eager to establish its dominance in East Asia, invaded Manchuria, a resource-rich region of China. This blatant act of aggression marked the beginning of Japan's imperial ambitions. Meanwhile, Germany, under the leadership of Hitler, was busy rewriting the map of Europe. Ignoring the terms of the Treaty of Versailles, Germany remilitarized Rhineland, a crucial buffer zone between Germany and France. Hitler didn't stop there. He proceeded to annex Austria and Sudetenland, a region of Czechoslovakia populated by ethnic Germans. These acts of aggression were clear violations of the treaty, yet they went largely unchallenged. Italy, under the fascist rule of Mussolini, also sought to expand its empire. It invaded Ethiopia, one of the few independent nations in Africa, demonstrating its disregard for international law and the League of Nations. But how did the world respond to these acts of aggression? Britain and France, still recovering from the devastating effects of World War I, followed a policy of appeasement. They hoped to avoid another war by making political concessions to the aggressors. However, this policy only served to embolden Germany, Italy, and Japan, and their unchecked aggression revealed the failure of appeasement. The unchecked aggression of the Axis powers revealed the failure of appeasement and made a global conflict inevitable. When does a series of regional conflicts transform into a global war? That moment arrives when the stakes become too high for nations to ignore, and that moment for World War II was the invasion of Poland. Our story picks up in the early autumn of 1939. Germany, under the leadership of Adolf Hitler, had spent years quietly amassing power and territory. But on September 1st of that year, the world woke up to the news that German forces had invaded Poland. This was not a mere border dispute or regional skirmish. This was a full-scale invasion, a blatant act of aggression against a sovereign nation. This audacious move by Germany was a clear violation of the Treaty of Versailles, which had ended the First World War and was intended to maintain peace in Europe. But Hitler's ambition knew no bounds, and he was willing to risk global conflict for his expansionist goals. The international community could no longer turn a blind eye. Britain and France, who had been watching the situation with increasing concern, finally took action. On September 3rd, just 2 days after the invasion, they declared war on Germany. They made a stand, not just for Poland, but for the principles of sovereignty and freedom. With the invasion of Poland, the world was plunged into a war that would redefine the course of history.